EU to impose tariffs of up to 38% on Chinese EVs. The European Union has issued a harsh warning to Chinese makers of electric vehicles EVs, declaring that they will begin imposing import levies as high as 38% beginning the following month unless the matter is handled through negotiation. On top of the 10% tariffs that are already in place for all electric vehicles in China, these new charges will be imposed. The upcoming taxes, which are scheduled to go into force around July 4th, have been publicly communicated to automobile manufacturers by Brussels. These manufacturers include BYD, JSA, and SAIC. The charges will differ from manufacturer to manufacturer depending on whether or not they comply with EU probes. Furthermore, it is anticipated that major exporters such as BYD and XPeng will be subject to additional individual taxes ranging from 17% to 20%. This decision was made in response to an inquiry that was initiated by the European Union in the previous year. The research concluded that China's electric vehicle supply chain receives large subsidies, which poses a threat to European automobile manufacturers. In addition to expressing concern that the new tariffs will hurt Europe's economic interests, China has denounced the action made by the European Union (EU) as being protectionist and has warned of the possibility of reprisal. There is a good chance that the increased tariffs will have a big impact on electric vehicle makers in China. China's electric vehicles EVs are exported to the European Union (EU), which accounts for about 40% of China's total EV exports. In addition, there is a minority opinion inside the European Union, with Germany, which is a significant trade partner with China, believing that the tariffs will be detrimental to German businesses. Not only will the additional tariffs have an impact on Chinese automobile manufacturers, but they will also have an impact on Western automobile manufacturers such as Tesla, which ships the Model 3 from Shanghai to Europe, as well as BMW and Renault. Imports of passenger cars from Europe to China are currently subject to a duty of 15%. The majority of Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers saw their stock prices fall before the official statement made by the European Union. For additional information, we will be speaking with Olivia Song, who is currently reporting live from Beijing. How has China responded to this new development, Olivia, considering the prominence of the European Union as a market for Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers? Jolie reached out to several Chinese automobile and electric vehicle manufacturers to inquire about their responses to this most recent development. NIO, which is subject to a tax of 21%, stated in response, expressing its vehement objection to the utilization of increasing tariffs as a tactic to obstruct the normal global trade of electric vehicles. Their commitment to Europe was reaffirmed, and they voiced their optimism that a solution could be found. Given the continuous investigations being conducted by the EU, several automobile manufacturers had anticipated some kind of action. On the other hand, the magnitude of the levies, which could reach as high as 38%, came as a surprise. However, they are still lower than the projected 100% tariffs that the United States is considering placing on Chinese electric vehicles later this year. This information was sent to me by the chief economist of Hang Seng Bank China. In her statement, she suggested that the impact on Chinese automobile manufacturers would not be as severe as was previously believed. When it comes to BYD, for example, the fact that they have a bigger profit margin in Europe indicates that even while the tariffs are a setback, they may not greatly impede their aspirations to enter the European market. However, the tariffs will also have an impact on factories that are located outside of China that produce goods such as Tesla. The analysts speculated that these businesses might experience the impact to a greater degree or severity. Investors may rethink their decision to continue investing in the production of electric vehicles in China and instead move their attention to Europe as a result of this event. Even though every manufacturer will devise its tactics, this circumstance raises bigger questions about the trade relations between China and the European Union, as well as the possibility of reprisal from Beijing, which has warned that it is prepared to retaliate. The relationship between China and the EU will surely be strained as a result of this decision. Even though specifics were not offered, there are indicators, including those that have been reported in state-run media, that China may retaliate by targeting the aviation or agriculture industries. In addition, the European Union is looking at other Chinese industries. China has often asked the European Union to adopt its independent policies toward China, rather than aligning itself with the United States, which China accuses of attempting to impede its development. Concerns have been voiced by Germany regarding the potential consequences that could be imposed on its automobile manufacturers that are active in China. Given that the Chinese automobile and electric vehicle markets are the largest in the world, it will be extremely important to keep an eye on China's response and the ramifications it will have for foreign businesses operating in China. Electric vehicles are considered to be one of the 3 new productive forces for China, which is significant for the country's economy in light of the issues posed by the real estate sector and the lack of demand from within the country. After the United States imposed tariffs on electric vehicles manufactured in China, these new penalties pose a serious issue. It will be necessary for government authorities and automobile manufacturers to take action to solve these concerns to fulfill their economic goals. According to senior officials of the European Commission, the new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles EVs are not meant to increase sales for European EV manufacturers. Rather, they are intended to level the playing field and combat what they believe to be unfair competition caused by state subsidies for Chinese EV producers. Among the facts that support this assertion is the fact that European companies that manufacture automobiles in China will be subject to tariffs that are greater than those imposed on some Chinese enterprises. By way of illustration, BYD will be subject to a duty of 17.7%, whilst many European automobile manufacturers that have joint ventures in China will be subject to tariffs of 21%. The European Commission officials have emphasized their objective to eliminate a network of attractive conditions for electric vehicle EV manufacturers in their home market. These favorable conditions include tax exemptions, preferential financing laws, green bonds, and grants offered by the European Commission. They indicate that they are willing to work together with the Chinese government, describing the Chinese government's involvement as being highly active to the point of being somewhat reluctant to provide information. In the next weeks, the tariffs are scheduled to go into effect. However, in the beginning, automobile manufacturers will be required to provide a guarantee that is comparable to the percentage of the duty. In the latter part of this year, full enforcement will take place, provided that the member states of the European Union reach a consensus. Officials have indicated that they are not yet considering these actions to be definite, which is relevant when contemplating the possibility of retaliation from China and the response from the European Union. To avert the implementation of the tariffs, they are hoping to collaborate with the Chinese government. On the other hand, if China were to enhance state support for its electric vehicle EV makers to compensate for the tariffs by maintaining high production and cheap prices, the European Union might launch a new probe if market conditions were to undergo a dramatic shift. When asked about the possibility of reprisal in industries other than automobile manufacture, such as agriculture or dairy, officials declined to comment on the matter. Even though it is obvious that both sides want to avoid a trade war, the time leading up to the permanent adoption of these tariffs in November will be extremely important. Would you like it? Don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for more interesting and informative videos.